Hello? Hello? It's the Above It All showgram here. Everybody, welcome to the we are program on this show. No, not Lindsey Graham, but no, not graham crackers. That's the same thing. But we're talking about the metric system. We are program. Is the gram part of the metric system? I think it is. Anyway, this is a program, a showgram, a show, also a gram, where I basically, I talk for maybe an hour, sometimes a little bit more, for those of you that are new here. And over the course of that hour, I make almost every single possible viewer not like me whatsoever. So that's the goal, to further isolate and alienate myself at all times. And so we're going to start today's show off by continuing something that I have, I feel like I have, I'm starting a trend here, at least in my own world. I'm starting the trend, the war on parents on this show. We're going to be starting off with the war on parents. And now this is something I've been doing on my program for a while now, just talking about how parents suck. But we're going to be talking about two specific parents here today. And those are the Crumbleys. So the Crumbleys are sentenced, everybody. James and Jennifer Crumbley get 10 to 15 years in prison for role in Oxford school shooting. So now this is something that I think that this is very controversial, and this is definitely part of why I support the war on parents, is because parents are responsible for what their child does. Now, we can have a meta conversation about how, schools or culture or the internet, which is, I guess, a subgroup of culture, can also influence children, right? But at the end of the day, parents are the ultimate arbiters, I should say, and arbitrators of what kids believe, what their values are, how they see the world, whether they're happy or not. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I remember all the details of the shooting in Oxford, Michigan, or what I think it was Michigan, because that was 2021. That was years ago, and there's like 9 trillion mass shootings every year, especially in schools. There's like 10 trillion mass shootings every year in schools, so it's kind of hard to remember which details are which. But before I get into the article, I just want to talk about, generally speaking, right? Why would a child decide, I'm going to go to school and kill everyone? Like, what are the things that has to go wrong in that child's life for them to arrive at that worldview? Now, again, I am open to the concept that there are edge cases where, the parents are wonderful parents and blah, 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 and the kid turned out to be a fucked up, crazy person who wants to go kill people for fun. Is that possible? Yes. Yes. Is it possible? Absolutely. But why is this happening all over the place, all the time? Why are there school shootings almost every single day in this goddamn country? My reason would be that I don't think it's actually being fueled, the crisis of school shootings and mass shootings at large, or I do not think they're being fueled by the rare edge case of just like some baby, just no matter how hard the parents try, the baby is just fucked up, man, right? I don't believe that's the case. I believe most parents are trash, garbage, should not be having kids in the first place, don't know what the fuck they're doing, treat kids as property, and don't actually listen to them. Now, when it comes to boys, now, look at the mass shootings that we see, right? There are a lot of them are boys, right? I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. Now, again, there's some women, that have killed some people in a mass shooting, but it's mostly the boys out there, right? So I'm just throwing the boys under the bus. But I'm not, because it really isn't boys' fault that they don't know how to express their emotions, right? When we live in a society where parents literally teach young boys, if you cry, that's a sign of weakness. You're not supposed to cry. Don't talk to me about these kinds of feelings. I can't help you anyway, but even if I could help you, I wouldn't, because you shouldn't be emotional. Being emotional is for girls and all this stuff. So when young boys in this culture are raised by people who abuse them in just the default. I mean, we can have this well, is it really abuse to teach boys that they're not supposed to cry? Yes, it is, actually. And if you disagree, this is why I'm doing the war on parents. So when a lot of young boys are often taught that they're not allowed to have any emotions, and yet they have a lot of emotions, right? And then there's guns everywhere, and then they're raised in a family that loves guns and worships guns, right? And I wonder, right? Because you need, there's no way you can live your whole life, 100 years, without ever expressing emotion, right? So when you are in that position, you're a young boy, and your parents basically have taught you you're not allowed to express your emotions, and there's guns everywhere. Guess what? Those emotions are coming out in some fashion. Could have been a therapist. I'm choking on my own saliva here. Bear with me. Could have been a therapist that those emotions have come out toward. Could have been a parent, a mom or a dad or whatever, a grandparent, a peer, a close friend who, you wanted to confide in. Or it could be a gun that you aim at your students, right? Because let's just be honest here. Most of the people that commit these mass shootings are depressed, angsty, alone young boys. That's it. And no one gives a fuck about them. And oftentimes, right, whenever these tragedies happen, you always see the parents go out there. I had no idea. You had no idea that your child was fucking depressed and emotional and wanted to kill people as a result of not being able to have friends or whatever. You had no fucking clue? Really? Whoa! Right? And then sometimes you have parents come out and say, well, this little Timmy was a troubled young man. Troubled? So you knew about this and you didn't do anything to fix it? And also, why were they troubled in the first place, right? So parents in general, they love pretending like they had nothing to do with the fact that their children are going out there committing shooting sprees. So for me personally, I am a huge fan of holding parents accountable because parents ultimately produce the personalities of their children, whether intentionally or unintentionally, right? If you are emotionally neglectful to your child, guess what? You did not intend for your child to have emotional outbursts because your intention is for them to not have emotional outbursts. But guess what? That's not real. That's not a thing, right? So when your intention is never show emotion and, you abuse your child with that intention and then they show emotion in the form of a school shooting, right? So again, intentionally, unintentionally, I believe parents should be held accountable for their child's actions, assuming, their child was, not assuming. I don't need to qualify that. But let's read the details here. In a climactic ending to a historic case, a judge sentenced James and Jennifer Crumbley both to 10 to 15 years in prison for their roles in the 2021 Oxford High School mass shooting committed by their son, who murdered 4 students, injured 7 other people, and terrorized a community using a gun that he had long begged for. Before handing down the sentence, Oakland County Circuit Court Judge Cheryl Matthews addressed the victim's family, telling them, I can't and will not pretend to understand the pain that these family, blah, blah, who cares? After offering her most sincere condolences. Now, again, I don't think judges have sincere condolences. We live in a society of, we don't give a shit about preventing crimes. We wait for the crimes to happen, wait for people to die, and then say, wow, that was really bad. That's the judicial system, right? No prevention whatsoever. Let all the crimes happen. Let people get murdered and then go, oh, that is not good at all. That's the judge's job, right? Because we live in fuckville. We live in shithole town. We live in a fucked up country with fucked up freaks running around, right? That's me too. Just, I don't want that to linger there. Parenting is a complex job, the judge said. Parents are not expected to be psychic, but these convictions are not about poor parenting. These convictions are about acts that could have halted a runaway train. Now I mentioned this case many months ago when this kind of, was getting into the heat of it, the thick of it. And this is my big problem with this is, again, how much do you want to bet that this judge is a parent? Because parents are a cult, right? It is a secret society in our world, in our country, at large. I mean, not every culture in the world has this kind of weird, fucked up parent cult, but in America, there definitely is, right? So, again, this bitch is like, it's not about poor parenting. No. It's about, the parents shouldn't have left the guns out. The parents shouldn't have been raising the kids. But ultimately, it is about poor parenting. That's what it is. That's literally what led to all of this stuff was poor parenting, right? Like, I'm sorry, man. You cannot say it's not about poor parenting. It's just all these are the mistakes you made while parenting your child. That doesn't really make any fucking sense. So it is absolutely about poor parenting. But again, the breeder fetish cult known as the cult of the family, the parental unit cult, they don't want to create a precedent where people can go to jail for being bad parents, because then everyone would be in jail, and they don't want to be held accountable for the fucked up shit that they do to their kids, the psychological torture or physical torture in a lot of cases that parents undergo against their children, right? So they're trying to make this as niche of a case as possible. It's more about the guns, right? It's not about parents being abusive psychopaths and raising their children in an environment of violence. No. It has nothing to do with that. It's like, maybe you shouldn't have bought a gun and so let's read more of this. She added, opportunity knocked over and over again and no one answered. What the fuck does that even mean? Also, there's no end quote. But what the fuck does that mean? Opportunity knocked over and over again and no one answered? Was this a fucking Dr. Seuss book? What the fuck? Mr. Crumbley, it's clear to this court that because of you, there was unfettered access to a gun or guns, as well as ammunition in your home. She termed Jennifer Crumbley's behavior at the school the day of the shooting apathetic. So, okay, the parent is apathetic, according to the judge. Wow, okay. In the end, the judge concluded the state's recommendation sentencing guidelines of 43 to 86 months did not take into account the harm of the shooting and the lack of responsibility that the Crumbleys continue to take. James Crumbley bought the 9mm handgun used in the shooting as an early Christmas present on Black Friday, setting the stage for the terrifying massacre just 4 days later that robbed parents of their children, horrified a school community and landed the Crumbley parents in history books. So this fucking idiot bought a gun as a Christmas present and then left it like unwrapped, loaded with ammo or whatever nearby the kid, who's, by the way, they're in the midst of psychologically torturing so that the kid is fucked up to begin with. Now again, just to be clear, I do believe it is possible that despite parents' best efforts, kids could be violent, murdering psychopaths just by nature. So I think it's possible in the same way that I think it's possible that the COVID pandemic magically ended like 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever, how many years ago people want to pretend like it magically went away. I also think it's possible that consuming microplastics and lead will not lead to cancers. It's possible. It's definitely possible. But I'm not going to, hang my hat on that one. James and Jennifer Crumbley are the first parents in America to be held criminally responsible in a mass shooting committed by their child. Separate juries this year convicted both parents on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, one for each student that their son murdered. The Crumbleys, who are planning appeals, had asked to be sentenced to time served. They had been jailed for almost 2.5 years on a $500,000 bond each. The judge gave them credit for time served. Victims' parents react to the sentence. Nicole, mother of Madison Baldwin, I guess that's pretty easy, told reporters after the sentencing that she thought James Crumbley's mention of holding the school accountable during a statement Tuesday was another attempt to play victim in the trial. Now, again, it's also the school's fault, right? This is like that Spider-Man meme. Oh, it's you! No, it's you! I've never seen the cartoon. I don't know. But, like, that's basically what it is. It's not you, man, or it's not me, dude. It's totally your fault that I bought a gun and, like, gave it to my kid, man. It's totally your fault. Now, again, the school system is absolutely at fault here. Why? Because the school system produces fucked up kids. The school system is an abusive torture facility, right, where they train kids to bully one another, to peer pressure one another. They indoctrinate kids with alienating, isolating fake history. They tell kids, what do you want to be when you grow up, when you're 5 years old, so that you don't even have a chance to be a child and you have to like focus on how to have a career and all this fucking shit. School is an extremely competitive environment that is just, it destroys the psyche of young minds. I'm sorry. Is it possible we can have public education that doesn't do that? Absolutely. But we don't have that in the United States of America. So I believe the school is absolutely at fault here for not caring about their kids. Every kid, you know, should have access. Not even just access. I believe there should be mandatory, I believe not even just mandatory visits with a guidance counselor, but there should be classes on like emotional learning, you know, how to handle your emotions properly, how to be nice to one another, because I mean, look at society, we really need this stuff. So the school system is absolutely partially responsible for this, as well as the parents. But of course, legally speaking, the law is written by parents. You know, the law is written by abusers. The law is written by people to maximize the abusers getting away with things. It's just in this instance, parents actually fell through the cracks here. But, okay, if he wanted this is the quote from the parent, if he wanted the truth, he would have been speaking the truth the whole time and had remorse the whole time. Okay. Bao Soeli said she thought she'd be more emotional considering the sentence of 10 to 15 years is what she wanted all along. Quote, I think it's what we hoped for so long that it's just the next step before going to Oxford schools, she said. Before going after Oxford schools. Okay, so this parent is like, okay, the school, you're next. All right, I'm in on this parent. Okay, this might be one of the good ones. Steve St. Juliana, the father of Hannah St. Juliana, said Jennifer and James Crumbley didn't take accountability for their actions. Quote, not once did they say, I wish I would have locked the gun up, and acknowledge that they're not the victims in this. Asked about his thoughts on James Crumbley's comments seeking accountability from Oxford schools, Craig Schilling, the father of Justin Schilling, said it was the parents who could have stopped their son. Now again, yes, the parents could have stopped their son. But also, okay, the school system is designed to not give a fuck about kids. The school system is designed to destroy kids' emotions, to destroy their creativity, to destroy their you know, sense of self, right? The school system is absolutely at fault. So I'm just throwing that out there. Yes. Is this guy doing a no you kind of thing? Absolutely. Is that unfair? You know, it's both of them in this instance. So it is unfair. But I'm just, you know, I have to throw that out there. The shooter's parents' perspective, the Crumbley parent, yeah, I don't really care. But anyway, so their sentence, fuck them, and good riddance. And again, parenting is a serious fucking thing. And this is something that I have said before, and I will continue to say. The moment that you have a child, your life is over. You're done. Your life is done. It's over. It's gone. Goodbye. It's on. It's off, okay? Your life from that point onward is only 100%. Now you may seem, this is extreme. Your life is 100% focused on the happiness, the prosperity, and the wellness of that child. Now, okay, here's your little fucking, you know, jujitsu move here for you. If you don't take care of yourself, also, you're not going to be a good parent. So when I say your job is 100% about making your child happy, that doesn't mean that you can't have, you know, personal hobbies. That doesn't mean you can't have your own little things that you want to do, because you need to take care of yourself. Your mental health needs to be completely in check. You need to be, you know, healthy physically. You know, I'm not saying, you know, disabled people shouldn't procreate necessarily or anything. But what I'm saying is you need to be in the maximum peak of your personal condition before you have a child, because that is a very difficult job. So I know a lot of people that are, you know, they're full of, you know, health issues or mental health issues or all this kind of stuff. They're stressed, they have no money, and then they decide to have a kid because they're narcissistic and they have nothing else to do with their fucking lives, and they bring these kids into these environments, which is just torture, you know, plain and simple. And so, in my opinion, in order to properly take care of a child, you also need to take care of yourself. Similar to when you're on the airplane, you need to put your mask on before you put your kid's mask on, right? And so, but that does not mean, right, that you ignore your fucking child, right? So a lot of parents would hear that and think, oh, great, that means I get to hire a babysitter 5 nights a week and just ignore my kid all the time. No, right? No, you need to be present. You need to be a great parent, because if you're not, guess what? Your child, let's just be honest here, might go out and commit a mass shooting, right? So, again, why am I so tough on parents? Because I think a lot of left-wing media gives parents a free pass for a lot of bullshit. Oh, poor parents. Oh, if you're poor, it's okay that you're stressed all the time and take your stress out on your kid because you're poor. Woo! Poverty means abuse is fine because they're so stressed. They have to take out their stress some way. And if you ask people, maybe you shouldn't have kids if you're poor, they'll say, that's eugenics. That is blah, 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 blah. Or, I don't know, maybe you should, take care of your own financial situation before you bring another goddamn human being into the mix. Having a kid is not cheap. So the idea that poor people who are still struggling to, get paycheck to paycheck to paycheck are choosing to have kids in this world is fundamentally fucked up in my head. Now, I'm sorry if that offends you, and I'm not saying that only rich people should have parents, okay? And I understand our economic system is fucked beyond belief. I get all these things. But with that said, why do you feel the need, like it's your right, to bring another person into this world to torture them with this world that we all agree is a torturous fucking psycho hellhole, right? Why do you think it's morally okay to bring another child into this fucking hellhole when you have no light at the end of the tunnel? If you think you're going to be in poverty forever, why are you bringing a child into that situation when you know it's only going to make the situation worse? Because you're a narcissist. Because you're a dumb fuck. Because you don't actually give a shit about your kid. You just want to have a kid because you want to give your life meaning. Oh, I never got to do my dream job, and now I'm 30 years old and I'm working in a fucking dead end job, and now I'm never gonna, make my music career or my TV career or my writing career or whatever thing you wanted to do in high school or whatever that never panned out. So now my life is meaningless. Oh, I know. Let's do the cheat code that everyone else on the fucking planet does. Pop a kid out, and now, whoa, my life has meaning all of a sudden. Woo! Right? Because people don't typically have kids because they want to bring another human into this world and actually, raise them to be prosperous, healthy, and happy. They want to have kids so that they can act out their role play that they experienced when they were a child. They want to act out the drama of life on their own children. Oh, when my dad beat me, that means that it's okay when I beat you, little Timmy, because my dad beat me. So what the fuck, right? And now again, I'm not trying to say that all parents are abusive or that parenting is inherently abusive. I just think that, I don't know, man, the idea that, we should be giving people free passes to just bring kids into these fucked up environments. Oh, they're poor, so it's okay. Oh, single mom, that's fine. There's totally nothing wrong with having a single fucking parent household whatsoever. That's completely normal. Everything's fine. 2-parent household? That's it? You only got 2 parents? Completely normal. No, I'm sorry, but I believe it takes a village to raise a child. And what is a village? It means a community. It means a child is never going to be alone unless they want to be alone. If a child wants to be alone, that's fine. But a lot of kids nowadays are alone. Right? They're fucking depressed. They're sad. They're sick because we're in a pandemic that their parents ignored. Their parents are teaching them that germs aren't real, so they're sick all the time. They're depressed. They have access to drugs in the form of social media and gambling in the form of social media, right? They don't have friends. And the friends that they do have are not very good, great connections, right? There's guns everywhere. You can't fucking, walk through the fucking living room without tripping over guns in a lot of these households, right? So again, why are we bringing kids into this environment? Why are parents choosing to sign up for the hardest job in the world? It's because they don't give a fuck. They just don't give a fuck. And so again, am I maybe overcorrecting? Possibly. I'm open to that interpretation. But you know what? I'm trying to shift the Overton window here because parents control the narrative too hard. If you're a parent and you watch my show, I hope you're doing a good job, right? But guess what? Even if you're not doing a good job, I get it. Being a parent is hard. But guess what? Guess what? I didn't sign you up to be a parent, so don't be fucking mad at me because I'm bursting your goddamn bubble. I didn't fucking send you a fucking letter in the mail like it's Vietnam or some shit. You signed up for it. So I don't know what to fucking tell you. Oh, it's hard? Shit. It's almost like everyone in the world has said this forever, that parenting is the hardest job in the world. Did you not know this? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry. But again, my sympathy, my empathy will always be with the children instead of the parents. Doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter if I ever have a child of my own, which is unlikely, right? But it is possible, right? It is theoretically possible. And, guess what? You know what my opinion of children would be? Guess what? Hoping that they're happy, healthy, and prosperous, and I would be on their side. Why? Because I'm a parent in that context in the future. Like, let's say I'm 39 and I want to have a kid, right? Guess what? You know what I would want to have a kid for? So that I can make sure that that kid is healthy, happy, and prosperous. So I would probably choose adoption in that instance, right? Because why are we, again, that's another thing. Why are parents so fucking dead set on procreating when there's plenty of orphans, when there's plenty of kids that have poor, parents, or, poor in this instance, not financially, but poor as in qualitatively, like they're just bad parents. Why are you bringing new kids into the world? Like, I'm just, like, let's be honest here, bringing new children into the world, let's be honest, a sexual fetish. That's what it is. You know that's what it is. How did you get the kid in the first place? Am I right? Okay, if you think I'm wrong, if you think breeding is not a sexual fetish, then why not adopt? You want a kid so bad? Okay, great, adopt. Oh, you don't want to adopt? Oh, it's because you're a fucking horny freak and you can't control yourself and you want to bring a child into your sexual fantasy. And I'm sorry, I just don't agree with bringing children into your sexual fantasy. I don't agree with that. That's why I also don't agree with a 2-parent household. I don't agree with a 1-parent household. I believe in a multi-generational, communitarian household. And again, household itself is a fucking limiting thing. Why do we have to have like these single units where you can't even talk to your neighbors anymore because no one knows each other, right? This is some fucked up shit, and it's producing fucked up kids like Ethan Crumbley, and it's producing fucked up parents like James and Jennifer Crumbley, because guess what? They were kids at one point. Where do you think they learned how to be evil parents from? From their parents. And where do you think their parents learned how to be evil cocksuckers from? From their parents, right? So again, I'm sorry, man. I have no sympathy for the breeders in this instance. Go fuck yourself instead of fucking other people and then bringing kids into this world. That's what I have to say on that subject. If you think I'm too mean, understand I'm trying to move the Overton window here. I think no one talks about this in any circles that I'm in. Everyone is just like, oh, wow, you have a child on the way. Oh, it's so amazing. Oh, my God. No one's allowed to ask new parents or expecting parents hard questions like, hey, how are you going to afford healthcare if your child turns out to be sick? How are you going to afford to stay at home with your kid if your kid turns out to be disabled? Can't ask hard questions of parents because you're going to harsh the vibes, man. Oh, dude, I just want everyone to tell me how great I am for breeding, man. You're harshing my mellow, bro. But, like, think about this, okay? This is, now, again, I'm just going to, give you my own bias here. I'm just telling you, I've said this before. I was a chronically sick kid. My mother was not prepared for that. She was not prepared to raise a chronically ill child. And guess what? Because she wasn't prepared, I suffered immensely for many, 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 many years. For the entirety of my childhood. Until the moment I was able to escape from that fucking hellhole, right? I was suffering because my parent did not think, maybe I shouldn't do this by myself, or, what if my child has extra needs, right? They just didn't fucking think about this shit, and now I'm fucked up for life, and I have to spend decades trying to fucking make sense of this hellhole that I was raised in, just because some stupid fucking morons out there didn't have the foresight to think ahead maybe 5 years, a 5-year plan. Is that too much for you? You can't think of a 5-year plan? I don't know, maybe stash away some cash in case your kid turns out to be disabled or sick in some way, right? Maybe stash away some money so that you can, take a couple years off of your job and raise your kid for 5 years, for the first 5 years of their life until they go into the school system. And again, that's a whole separate can of worms, right? But I don't know, man. So you can maybe claim I'm just edgy. I'm just taking out my own suffering on other parents who did nothing wrong. But I see the shit that I went through when I was a kid. I see the shit all over the place. I see it with good parents, societally accepted as good parents. I see all kinds of parents abuse their children all the time, in public all the time. I see it online all the time. There's like TikTok trends about like bashing your fucking kid with food items or some shit like that I see, right? Why are parents like this? I don't know. So I would like to say I'm on the front lines in the war on parents. If that makes you upset, do better. And again, if you are a good parent, you shouldn't be upset at what I'm saying. You should be upset because what I'm saying is correct, and it's correct, and you want other parents to do better. So if you're mad at me because you think I'm attacking you, I don't know, man, try introspection. Because if you're a good parent, if you're someone who's actually doing their actual job, guess what? I'm not talking about you, okay, motherfucker? So fuck off, okay? But anyway, now that we got the war on parents out of there, man, where do we go next? Where do we go next? You know what? Okay, let's continue the war on parents a little bit. But we're going to take a step back, okay? It's a side step, actually. We're not stepping back. We're not stepping forward. We're stepping to the side, like that fucking dance or whatever. You got to, Anyway, so I just want to juxtapose this article here. I want to read this, and then we'll get into a recent thing. Now, this is multiple years ago. This is from October 18th, 2022. If you had COVID, several of your organs could be aging 3 to 4 years faster, study shows. Now, this is a study from 2022. 2022. Before the government said, we did it, Jack, COVID's over, and everyone's still getting COVID every day. So we knew this already. COVID ages your organs. But I'm going to read this, just going to read this, and then we'll get into the next section why I'm juxtaposing. After over 2.5 years of COVID research, scientists are seeing the first data points that prove a dramatic change in human organs after a COVID infection. You can start thinking about getting COVID as almost an accelerant to aging. The viral infection accelerates the aging process in people. Okay? All pointing to Dr. Al-Ali gathered data from millions of people across the country. Their studies on kidney outcomes and long COVID in the brain, and long COVID on the heart had similar patterns, all pointing to multiple human organs aging faster after COVID. The majority happening among people who were hospitalized, but also some with mild symptoms. So even if you had mild symptoms, it's still living in your heart and aging you faster. Quote, almost by 3 to 4 years in the span of just one. Now, this is 2022. When they're studying people, they got 1, maybe 2 infections. How many infections have you had? How many infections do you... Jesus fucking Christ. Goddamn, my camera always falls over. When I'm getting too antsy, I start making the fucking desk rumble. How many infections have you had? How many infections have your friends had, your parents had? God forbid if you know a teacher in this world. How many infections have they had? So this is studying 3 to 4 years of aging for like 1 to 2 infections, right? Fast forward 2 years, Joe Biden stepped out of Hogwarts, waved his magic wand, let COVID be gone! Woo! And then J.K. Rowling fucking did a super fucking attack or whatever on COVID, and now it's all over. Magic has won the day. COVID is over. But wait, this is from the New York Post, by the way. Now, the New York Post is a right-wing, mega-fascist outlet. So when they're talking about this stuff, they're not going to talk about real, actual issues, and they're just going to say... I don't know. Cancer rates rising in young people due to accelerated aging, according to highly troubling new study. Now, what did we find out 2 years ago? Oh, COVID accelerates aging. Let's read. What the fuck is this? Like, get this out of here. What the fuck? What is this? Can you... Why? What the fuck? Anyway. Accelerated aging. When someone's biological age is greater than their chronological age, could increase the risk of cancer tumors. You don't say. You don't fucking say. That's according to new research presented this week in the American Association for Cancer Research annual meeting in San Diego, California. Quote, historically, both cancer and aging have been viewed primarily as concerns for older populations. Interesting. The realization that cancer and now aging are becoming significant issues for younger demographics over the past decades was unexpected. Now, again, is COVID the sole thing here? No. We also have highly processed food. We also have all sorts of other diseases that are now coming back. Measles, bird flu, that kind of stuff. We have lack of exercise, a sedentary lifestyle in a lot of children, antisocial personality disorder in a lot of children. And but I also have antisocial, I'm just telling you, kids are not, they're not going out and playing with kids as much as they used to. They're staying at home and scrolling on the internet. And, I'm just saying those are also factors. But guess what? Those are things that have been highly processed food has been available and given to kids for decades, since the 80s and 90s, really. That's been kind of the standard to give your kids poison because you're too lazy and stupid to cook food. Oh, back to the war on parents. Oh, my work was so hard. So my work and job is so stressful and difficult. So that means it's okay that I poison my child. I'm a single mom. Oh. Go fuck yourself. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Poisoning your child with garbage because you're too lazy to cook. I'm sorry. Guess what? Shouldn't have had the kid in the first place. I'm just being honest with you, okay? And if this doesn't apply to you, please shut the fuck up. But guess what? COVID has been circulating, and also that's pushing people over the edge. People have been walking toward the cliff for a long time, but then a fucking semi-truck starts ramming them off the edge of the cliff, also known as COVID, right? But are they going to talk about that? Let's find out. In the study, diagnoses in patients younger than 55 were considered early onset cancers. The researchers analyzed data from 148,724 people using the UK Biobank database. They estimated each person's biological age using 9 biomarkers in blood and then compared that to their chronological age. Those with higher biological age had a 42% increased risk of early onset lung cancer. Think now again, where does COVID enter your body? Okay. We're 22% more... Those with a higher biological age had a 42% increased risk of early onset lung cancer. Is that supposed to be where? 22% more prone... No, okay, the commas are just throwing me off. Were 22% more prone to early onset gastrointestinal cancer and had a 36% higher risk for early onset uterine cancer. Okay, so gastrointestinal cancer. What is that related to? Processed food? Interesting. The researchers also determined that people born after 1965 were 17% more likely to experience accelerated aging than those born in earlier decades. The principal findings highlight that accelerated aging is increasingly prevalent among successive birth cohorts. Interesting phraseology. Potentially serving as a crucial risk factor for or a mediator for various environmental and lifestyle-related risk factors leading to early onset, blah, blah, blah. This discovery challenges us to reconsider the underlying causes of the increasing incidence of early onset cancers among newer generations. The hope is that these findings will lead to interventions to slow biological aging as a new avenue for cancer prevention. Yeah, these are from the same guys that think COVID isn't real, right? So, just factor that into your analysis here. Yeah, then now they're citing a longevity expert, which I can assume doesn't acknowledge COVID is real. So, anyway, so why is this related to the war on parents? Well, again, because parents decided in the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, up until today, that feeding poison to kids is perfectly fine. Why? Because they're lazy and they're too stupid to learn how to cook. Maybe, hey, I'm just throwing this out there. Maybe you should have learned to cook before having a kid. I know. Fucking, what am I, Jimmy Neutron over here? Whoa! Maybe, just maybe, you should learn how to be a functioning adult before you procreate. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just, I'm just saying. Right? And then this will weasel in, right? Because, I've got a narrative here. I'm trying to push a narrative here. I'm trying to fearmonger, man. So let's check this out. Headline is cut off. Consumer Reports urges USDA to remove Lunchables from National School Lunch Program. CR tests find Lunchables and similar lunch kits contain relatively high levels of lead, cadmium, and sodium. All but one contain harmful. So again, now, okay, you might be wondering, what? But parents are just doing what the government told them to do, man. It's not their fault. Now, again, I know. Shit, the war on parents never ends here. But, so the government told you to feed your kid Lunchables? And you just trust the government blindly? Now, the government is one data point. The government can recommend something. That's not necessarily meaning it's perfect, it's the greatest thing in the world, and it also, it doesn't mean that the government's telling you something because it's a lie. They want to troll you, man. They want to incept your mind with false information. The government has an agenda. So when the government tells you to do something, that is one data point that you should always juxtapose with science and research. Oh, but parents are too stupid to learn how to read, something they should have learned before, having a kid. So they don't know how to read research and studies. So they just blindly do what the government told them to do? Huh. And I'm supposed to feel bad for those people. Okay. But how many? Raise your hand in the chat room if you're watching this, whatever, in the comment section. If you had Lunchables when you were a kid. I had Lunchables when I was a kid. Why? Because my parent was fucking too stupid and lazy to cook food for me at all. She didn't give a fuck whatsoever about my nutrition. That probably led to a lot of my chronic illness as a kid. And hey, now I have to worry about having high levels of lead in my brain. So isn't that great? We got lead out of the gas, lead out of the air, so we put lead in the food. Good job, parents. And again, notice, if parents actually gave a shit about their kids, none of this would be happening. None of this would be happening if parents actually gave a fuck about their kids. But they don't. So, it does. Consumer Reports called on the Department of Agriculture today to remove Lunchable food kits from National School Lunch Program. CR recently they shouldn't remove them from the National School Lunch Program. They should remove them from store shelves at what the fuck, Okay, so we can't have the government give kids lead, but we can have parents buy the lead and give it to what? What? Jesus Christ. CR recently compared the nutritional profiles of two Lunchable kits served in schools and found they have even higher levels of sodium than the kits consumers can buy in the store. Now that's interesting. Okay, so the Lunchable kits that they give, the government-funded ones, are actually even worse than the ones in the store. Now, that's the interesting aspect to this. CR also tested 12 store-bought versions of Lunchables and similar kits and found several contained relatively high levels of lead and cadmium. All but one also tested positive for phthalates, chemicals found in plastic that have been linked to reproductive problems, diabetes, and certain cancers. Interesting. So we have COVID coming along, right? Accelerating aging by 3 to 4 years in every organ. And then we have lead in the food supply and plastic in the food supply, which accelerates cancer growth, accelerates diabetes, right? And then everyone's wandering around. Why is everyone sick all the time? The world may never know. Right? Because again, these motherfuckers are stupid. Parents are fucking stupid. People in this country and the world at large, let's be honest, are fucking stupid. No one in this world actually gives a fuck about the world that they live in. They only care about their own little world. Ooh, what's on TV tonight? Oh, what's in the freezer that I can make for dinner? Because cooking is hard. Ooh, right? That's all parents give a fuck about. Their own little strange world. Ooh. Anyway, You can read the rest of this if you'd like. But again, we just live in fuckville. And so as a result, I'm in the front lines on the war on parents, because ultimately parents are the sole responsible, avatars of what the world is supposed to be like, the models of how to live your life for children, right? Children learn how to live from their parents. They learn how to socialize from their parents. They learn how to read. They learn what's okay, what's not okay. They learn how to behave from their parents and their peers. That's true, but parents ultimately, right? And so when parents are feeding them poison, is it really like okay, and then they grow up and then they have kids when they're like 22 and they don't know how to cook because their parents fed them poison. So then they have kids without learning how to cook, and then they feed their kids poison, right? I don't know, man. Maybe we should, I don't know, instead of having kids whenever the fuck you want, maybe there should be, I don't know, when you're pregnant, maybe, just throwing this out there, mandatory education. Hey, let's make it economical. We'll pay you to get fucking educated on how to raise your fucking child properly without feeding them lead. Learn how to cook before you fucking give birth. You stupid fucking idiots. Now, again, I'm sorry if someone out there, I'm too poor to cook because freezer food is less expensive than raw ingredients. Yeah, if you live in stupid fucking La La Land, that is, right? Fast food is cheaper than raw ingredients if you live in stupid fucking La La Land. I'm sorry, if you have a car, and let's be honest, most parents have cars, you have no right to complain. No right to complain about food prices, because you can just go to a farmer's market, you can just go to a fucking grocery store and get raw ingredients fine. If you don't have a car and you live in a food desert, maybe you have more of a right to complain, but I would also say, why are you raising children in a food desert? Like, I'm just saying, I'm being honest. Why are you raising children in a food desert? Shouldn't you have moved somewhere before having kids? Right, because they don't care about kids. They don't give a shit about their own kids, right? So that's why they're raising kids in a fucking food desert, because they don't know shit about Jack. They don't know anything about anything until their kid is 4 years old, starting to talk and says, Mom, why aren't you feeding me properly? Then all of a sudden it hits them like a brick fucking wall. Whoa, maybe I should have been doing something else for the last 5 years of my life, but hey, whatever. While we're talking about schools, we're talking about parents, we're talking about children, so we got to talk about schools. It's the holy trinity of fucking garbage here. So I got a couple articles I want to read here that I find to be, let's just say, fascinating, interesting, maybe, possibly, you could say. Schools in Northeast say, now this is from Canada, say teacher shortage a real problem, as a survey finds over 25% in Ontario face it daily. Some boards looking to different recruitment and retention strategies. There's a teacher shortage. So what's the solution? Let's find out. On any given day, more than a quarter of Ontario schools don't have enough qualified teachers. The survey by the advocacy group People for Education is released annually, with the 23 to 24 one saying the data are based on responses from 1030 publicly funded schools and 70 of 72 school boards. Again, this is in Canada. The survey didn't offer a regional breakdown, but some school boards in northeastern Ontario say they regularly used uncertified instructors to keep classes going. So, okay. Worldwide, children are getting dumber. That's just a fact. If that offends you, cry me a river, okay? Build a time machine, go back in time, stop yourself from having a kid, okay? So why are they getting dumber? Well, it can't be COVID wrecking their brain so that they can't retain information. Can't be that, because COVID magically disappeared because Harry Potter is real. So it can't be that. It can't be the highly processed food that slows your metabolism and it slows your brain's cognitive abilities. It can't be that. It can't be the way that schools are designed, where you have 30, 40 kids in one classroom and teachers can't even, have any individual time or session with any individual kid, and the kids are often neglected. If the back of the class is, they're not even listening whatsoever. A lot of them are sleeping, and the teacher, what are they supposed to do? Stop the lesson to throw an eraser at a kid's head? Well, you shouldn't be throwing things at kids' heads anyway, but hey, I'm just saying, right? So it's already fucked from the jump, right? So what do we do here? I know. Let's bring in unqualified teachers that don't know what the fuck they're talking about just so that we can have daycare stay open, because that's all schools are, is daycare. They like to pretend that they're more than that. Oh, we're educators. We're preparing the next generation. Yeah, give me a fucking break. Are they teaching you how to fucking desalinate water when the climate apocalypse comes in 20 years? No. Well, they're not preparing the next generation for the future. I'm sorry. But hey, whatever. Frank Palumbo, that's a funny name, I'm sorry. The board superintendent of human resources said that every day he has 5 to 6 vacancies in elementary schools per day and 3 to 4 at secondary schools. Palumbo said he makes calls from a list of qualified substitute teachers first to fill those vacancies. If they aren't filled, he goes on to list a list of unqualified but approved teachers, student teachers with transitional certificates, or people with backgrounds in certain disciplines but no teaching certificate. Now, what does that mean? Backgrounds in certain disciplines. Now, in my high school, what that meant, I went to high school in New Jersey, is that every once in a while you would have like some boot camp ass military veteran come in to teach you about fucking science, about reading. You ever get one of those guys? Now, I'm going to just a little sidebar here. Let me tell a story. When I was in high school, I was a little bit of an edgelord in high school, right? I didn't stand up for the pledge. I expressed my First Amendment right not to pledge my allegiance to a shithole country. So once in a while, we'd have the military teacher come in, the substitute military fucking loser, come in. And sometimes they would be like the homeroom period, right? The, you know, where you're supposed to pledge your allegiance to a shithole country that's bombing Iraqis, right? And for no reason, by the way, just throwing that out there. And every once in a while, I would get into like verbal fights with these military fuckers. And they would tell me like, you know, I'm going to give you detention if you don't stand up for the pledge. You're disrespecting the flag. I fought for this flag in Iraq. And I said, like, why the fuck would you, like, that sounds like your problem, you know? And I would get into these debates with these military fuckheads, and they would get so fucking triggered. And I would notice this, you know, in some instances, you know, like when I was in, you know, freshman year, a lot of the times homeroom and first period were the same class, right? So, you know, they would be like triggered throughout the rest of the, like, you know, hour period of teaching. You know, they would bully me, you know, for the rest of that period. They would, like, you know, try to ask me trick questions and stuff like that and like pick me out, right? And that's the kind of, those are the, like, when you talk about backgrounds in certain disciplines but not teaching, oftentimes that's military. I don't know about Canada specifically, but when I grew up in New Jersey, that meant military. Because when you're in the military, that means you're qualified to be around kids and teach them mathematics. You know, that's one example, okay? Palumbo said that if those options fail, he has another strategy to move teachers around within schools. Great. So that the teachers can't build any relationship with the students and can't learn where students excel and where they don't excel and be able to tailor their lessons, you know, on behalf of that information. Make sure teachers have the minimal, you know, education or resources possible. And then there's this picture of this guy here for some fucking reason. I don't know. Now, again, why are there so many fucking teacher shortages all across the world? Because of COVID. Because teachers are getting sick as fuck and there's not enough new teachers entering the system. But again, teachers unions in this country, they acknowledge, guess what? Not that COVID is real, but that school lockdowns 4 years ago are why there's teacher shortages. What the fuck? Right. Now I want to read another article here. This is from Pennsylvania. Educators call attention to teacher shortage crisis in Pennsylvania. Whoa, in Pennsylvania too. Wow. Lawmakers and education advocates rallied in Harrisburg to bring attention to the teacher shortage in Pennsylvania. Let me guess. They rallied in close proximity without wearing masks so that everyone gets COVID and then they couldn't possibly actually, you know, teach their kids properly because everyone's sick all the time. So I'm just throwing that out there, right? You know? They are seeking more money for student teacher stipends, better pay, as well as investment programs such as Grow Your Own to recruit more teachers and increase diversity. Are they going to do anything to reduce class sizes? Nah, because they don't give a shit about that either. Reports show, are they going to do anything for clean air in public schools so that kids get sick less often and are actually more cognitively available in school and present and able to actually learn? You can have a kid physically sit in a fucking desk, but if their fucking brain is being fried because they have a fever of 102 and the school said, well, if you have a fever below 103, you're still supposed to go to school. Their brain is like boiling, right? Are they really able to like understand how to fucking learn calculus when their brain is being boiled? Probably fucking not, right? So I'm just throwing that out there, right? Because parents don't give a shit about their kids, and some high school dropout childless loser has to be the one to advocate for children in this world. How fucked up is that? That the people without kids typically are more advocates of children than the people with kids. It really makes you think sometimes, doesn't it? Reports show that 5,000 college graduates now go into teaching in Pennsylvania, down from 20,000 a decade ago. More than 90% of the state's teachers are white, while nearly 40% of the students are people of color. Now, that's a whole different can of worms. We can talk about how oftentimes, non-white people are not necessarily pushed in the school system to achieve or to want to achieve higher education, especially teaching. When I was in school, and again, I went to school in New Jersey. So I know I had one black teacher in elementary school, but I don't think I had a single black teacher in high school. I'm pretty sure. Now, I did drop out of high school, so maybe if I would have, done senior year, maybe I would have finally gotten a black teacher. But so I'm just throwing that out there from my personal experience. New Jersey is pretty close to Pennsylvania, and, there's all kinds of reasons why that would be the case, too. And also, again, when you have 90% white teachers, they're probably they're not as equipped to be able to handle certain, requirements or needs that, black kids maybe need, that are experiencing racism or stuff like that. They're just not qualified or educated on that concept and can't really tailor their education into that category. So I'm just throwing that out there as well. School District of Lancaster Superintendent Dr. Keith Miles said retirements have gone way up, contributing to the shortage there. The district, now there's a lot of teachers that are doing early retirement and stuff because they're just, again, too sick to fucking work. So if you can retire early, without full benefits because you're too sick, and that's better than just like quitting, or it's better than just showing up and not really doing your job properly, right? So a lot of teachers are doing that too. He also said the district is trying to identify juniors and seniors in high school interested in teaching and help them on a path to become educators and representing the student population. Now, again, without acknowledging COVID, which is the number one crisis here that's resulting in this, all this shit is doomed to fail. Now, let's go to Maine. Maine teacher shortage is expected to be widespread in the next school year. Now these are all stories that are within a couple days from one another before anyone accuses me of like, right? That's what people in the comment section say to me. That's how I read it, though. That's like, when I'm reading the text in my mind, that's the voice that comes in. The state expects to have a critical need of teachers in health, special education, computer science, music, social studies, early childhood, art, English. English as a, like, why not just say fucking everything? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What? Just say we need more fucking teachers. Like, I'm sorry, man. What? 11 out of, 16 subjects? I mean, come on, dude. Jesus fucking Christ. Get rid of these fucking ads. They're everywhere. The Maine Department of Education has released a list of teaching positions that are in high demand and will qualify for emergency hiring rules next year. Now, again, keep your eyes on this one. Next school year, the state expects a shortage of teachers in health and physical fitness. Now, imagine being a health teacher in high school during a pandemic where the entire government and all of your peers are telling you that COVID magically disappeared. Now, imagine, even worse, being a health teacher in year 5 of a pandemic and actually believing that germs don't cause disease and that COVID magically disappeared. Just throwing that out there. The designations mean Maine schools can hire people without a teaching license. I can't fucking highlight on this page. What the fuck? Look at this. Okay, this is strange. I can't. Okay, now I can. What the fuck? It's just right here. I can't highlight that sentence. Shout out to technology, dude. Without a teaching license if they have a bachelor's degree or equivalent work experience. What does this mean? Equivalent work experience. So, now maybe I'm reading it wrong, okay? Okay, like maybe equivalent work at, like if you work at a fucking auto body shop for 4 years. Like, I'm just like, what does that mean? Equivalent work experience. I just don't know what that means. Are either enrolled in a teaching program or have the highest education technician certification and have submitted to a criminal background check. The annual list put together in coordination with the Federal Department of Education comes as Maine and the entire U.S. continue to be plagued by teaching shortages. Now, again, everyone complains, oh, teacher shortage. But they're not going to mention why there's a teacher shortage because everyone is fucking sick and no one wants to go teach kids because guess what? Everything in the world fucking sucks. Why would you sign up for a job that gets a low pay? You get no respect, right? You get no fucking like rights whatsoever, and you're subjected to being sick all the time. Why would anyone sign up for that? I'm sorry. I'd rather work at home. I'm sorry. I'm just being honest with you. The most recent data on, well, I guess let's keep reading this. Maine, like many states, does not regularly publish statewide data on unfilled teacher positions, so it's difficult to assess the severity of the shortage. Isn't that interesting? Very curious. The most recent data on unfilled teaching positions in Maine is from 2017 to 18 school year, where there were almost 700 teacher vacancies. So now this is before the pandemic, and we started off the pandemic already pretty fucked in Maine here. In the 21 to 22 school year, there were a total of 15,418 teachers in Maine, according to state data. Of those, 276 were underqualified, teaching in a subject they are not licensed to teach in, and 13 were using emergency certificates, according to state data. Those in Maine's education field say low compensation is the primary reason it is difficult to attract and retain teachers. And again, new teachers, okay? Attract, right? New teachers. Now, if someone's a teacher, right, they're probably, if someone really wants to be a teacher, they know it's low pay, but they do it because they feel the moral virtue. And then those motherfuckers, because they're dumb as shit and they don't know what the fuck they're doing in life, are getting infected with the virus that's causing them to be sick all the time so they can't actually show up to school and teach kids, right? So that's another aspect to this, but again, no one's going to talk about it. Should we have clean air ventilation so that kids and teachers are getting sick less often and can be at the peak of their cognitive prowess all the time? Nah, fuck it. Let's feed them lead and COVID and see what happens. Educators and activists in recent years have repeatedly called on the state to raise the minimum salary for teachers and other educators. The state, now again, this is another aspect that we can just know for a fact that parents don't give a fuck about their kids. The fact that parents don't, you know what we should be having? A school strike. All the parents in the country, stop sending your kid to school until teachers get a better salary. But parents don't do that because they don't actually give a fuck about their life or about their kids' lives. They just don't. I'm sorry. Minimum wage in Maine is $14.15, which would take the minimum salary for ed techs $21.23, and yeah, all these numbers don't matter. Now again, very interesting information, right? Why are there teacher shortages all across the country and in other countries? Are we going to do anything about fixing that? No. Well, we're definitely going to complain about it. So that's pretty great. That's pretty fucking great. That's pretty goddamn great. You know what else is fucking great? Check this out. Ground up chicken waste fed to cattle may be behind the bird flu outbreak in U.S. cows. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, what is ground up chicken waste? Is that like bones? Meat parts that people don't want to eat, so no. Waste, we're talking about shit. We're talking about poopy. We're talking about feces. They are feeding chicken shit to cows. Only in the United States, by the way. Only in the United States. Jesus fucking goddamn. Fears are growing that the H5N1 outbreak among cattle in the United States could have been caused by contaminated animal feed. I'm sorry. Shit is not animal feed. I'm sorry. Okay? It's just fucking not. Especially for cows. Now, there are actually some animal species that do eat shit, okay? And that in those species can be beneficial in some way. But processing shit, I'm sorry, that's not good. And then cows are not among those creatures. I'm sorry, that's just a fact. In contrast to Britain and Europe, now I'm just sorry, but Britain is part of Europe. I'm sorry, shut the fuck. It's not part of the European Union, that's true. But it is part of Europe, you fucking assholes, okay? So start with Britain and Europe, okay? Britain is a part of fucking Europe. End of story, okay? I'm sorry. That's like saying, Alaska and North America. I'm sorry. Maybe it's not a direct analogy, but just, it's really fucking dumb. American farmers are still allowed to feed cattle and other farm animals ground up waste from other animals, including birds. Now, this is why on my show I routinely tell you, American meat is poison. It's poison. You don't think that that's going to affect the nutritional quality of the meat that you're trying to consume? When they're being fed a diet of antibiotics and chicken shit? I'm telling you, American meat is poison. Especially beef. But American meat, pork as well, has a lot of problems. American meat is poison. Straight up poison. It is not food. Dairy cows across 6 U.S. states and at least one farm worker have become infected with the highly pathogenic virus, which has already killed millions of animals across the globe since 2021. Now, again, that is going to affect the global food supply chain because while we can have really fucked up laws in the United States that allow these outbreaks to happen, Canada is not, there's no magical, like, borders are not real, right? So birds can bring this virus to Canada, and then they have to deal with the fact that we have shitty regulations, right? So just throwing that out there, just because American meat is poison does not mean this won't eventually affect the rest of the food supply. The farm worker, who is thought to have been exposed via infected cattle in Texas, is only the second recorded human H5N1 case in the U.S. Since February, the U.S. has investigated and discounted a further 8,000 possible exposures, according to Dr. Joshua Mott, WHO Senior Advisor on Influenza. The development is of concern because it allows the virus, which has killed millions of birds and wild mammals around the world, more opportunities to mutate. Now, this is the real deal, okay? Now, right now, H5N1 has about a 56% fatality rate. So 56% of humans that have had H5N1 in the 21st century have died, okay? Now, for a pandemic, that's actually good information because it's less likely to spread if the people that get infected die really quickly, right? But let's say it mutates, similar to COVID, right? COVID mutated from a 20% death rate to about a 1% death rate. But guess what? It's still killing people because their hearts are giving out because they got COVID 15 times, right? So I'm just saying, right? While COVID, right, the acute phase is not killing people directly, the long-term phase is, right? So, but that's not accounted for in the fatality rate because the way we talk about science and medicine in this country is backwards, right? But again, let's say bird flu mutates and has a 20% death rate or a 10% death rate or whatever. That means it's going to be actually a bigger concern for a pandemic. And we already know, Americans especially, but most people are fucking stupid. They don't believe in germs, okay? This is why, as of last year, I started calling the new era, 2023 and onward, the age of pestilence, the new age of disease and mass death. This is the first time in human history where the germ theory of disease has been discovered and discarded. Now, it hasn't been lost, right? It's not like the Library of Alexandria or something. There could have been a book on the germ theory of disease in there, and then it was burned down, and we don't know about it, right? You can look up the germ theory of disease and read a book on it right now. It's accessible information, but governments and people worldwide do not believe in germs. And that's going to cause a lot of problems. Not just COVID, but all kinds of disease is going to get rampant, right? This is why I have said we are in the age of pestilence. Experts fear that H5N1, which was only first detected in cows a few weeks ago, may have been transmitted through a type of cattle feed called poultry litter, also known as, guess what? Chicken shit. A mix of poultry excreta, also known as chicken shit, spilled feed, feathers, and other waste scraped from the floors of it. Dude. In the UK and EU, feeding cows proteins from other animals has been tightly regulated since the outbreak of mad cow disease 30 years ago. Experts are unsure, but fear it could be poultry litter feed, also known as chicken shit, used in the US that has passed the virus to cattle. Quote, in the U.S., the feeding of poultry litter, also known as chicken shit, to beef cows is a known factor in the cause of botulism in cattle and is a risk in the case of H5N1, said Dr. Steve Van Winden, associate professor at the population medicine at the Royal Veterinary College. Very interesting. Very interesting. How long have I been going here? An hour? Quota achieved. And that's the show for today here. I'd like to say thank you for watching and all that. This is the part where I think, do I have anything else to say? Not really. I think I'm good. That's the show.